This is probably the most requested video of mine, and I've wanted to film it for so long, but I've just been so anxious and I don't know why. So I had a breast reduction. I had breast reduction surgery. I actually just want to create this video to help people going through the process. I know I went to YouTube looking for videos because I was like, I just need some advice and some help of what this is going to be like. Post-surgery, pre-surgery, I had so many questions. This is literally a video just to help people like me who either want to have the surgery or thinking about having the surgery. So this is here to help you. If you're just nosy and a weird man watching this video, just please leave, because this video isn't for you. I think that's probably why I didn't film it for so long, because I was like, oh, people are just going to be nosy and like, I don't know. Or anyway. I had the surgery because I was physically really struggling. I am naturally a petite person. I'm 5'1", and my boobs were huge. I was a 30 double J, which was ginormous for my size. And of course that came with so many mental insecurities. I think all of my insecurities have come from having big boobs through school, puberty, all of the above. So I always knew I wanted to have the surgery. It was just when and how. I first went to my GP when I was 15 years old. So I went to the GP and I basically was just like, I'm really suffering with my shoulders, my back. Anyone with big boobs will know it is so painful. Men could not do it, let's just put it that way. It is so heavy, and I'm quite a sporty person, and I was really like struggling because I couldn't work out or I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. It was really physically holding me back. So yeah, I went to the GP when I was 15. He didn't really say much, to be honest. It was a lady. She was actually really nice. She just basically said, you've got to kind of wait till you're a bit older, you're 15, like, you know, you're still growing. And I was like, oh my God, I'm still growing. Like, this is not good. I'm huge. So when I was 18, I went again to the GP because this was after I finished drama school in London, and I really struggled there. I think that was just the cherry on top of the cake for me. Long story short, I went again when I was 18. I'd been having sports massages like off and on since I first visited the GP, just to help with like muscular shoulder issues, physiotherapy. I did so many things because my back and my shoulders was just so messed up from it. Again, when I was 18, and the GP took me a little bit more seriously because I was older. I also expressed to him that I'd been having the physiotherapy. I visited the GP before, you know, this wasn't something I just thought about. Like, I really know I want to have this surgery. So I tried to go down the NHS route. So that was interesting. So I started to go down the NHS route because obviously it is so expensive. I'm in the UK, so this is how it happened for me. I kind of knew of a few people that had had the surgery. So family, friends, I knew had had it. I think somebody I worked with at the time. So I was asking them questions. I took to YouTube. I asked so many questions of like how to go about it. So it is really difficult to get the surgery on the NHS. Like, so tough because obviously it's seen as cosmetic for the NHS, which I do completely understand, but also I don't at the same time, because there were so many physical implications to, even still now I'm still suffering from things, but I understand there's more pressing things for the NHS. So this is again what my GP like alliterated to me. We were like, it is so tough, but we can try. So basically how it works is you have to build up a portfolio of constantly going to the GP, basically constantly showing that you're having these issues, and it all will be written down. So I had quite a lot of evidence, and my GP was so helpful and so good, writing to different like boards and stuff to me to try and get the funding for this surgery. So I can't thank him enough. He was so amazing. He'd created me a portfolio, and I needed some photos to go along with my evidence to the board, which decides if I get the funding or not, basically. And I had to go to the hospital to get photos, and I was so nervous to do this. I went with my mum, and it was honestly, it's just a really weird thing. I felt so exposed, which I was very exposed, but it was just so weird. And so I went to hospital, had the photos taken, they were put on my file, and then I just had to wait to hear. But it took a while. I think this was over like probably about a 6-month period, but I was so lucky because I heard back and I was told that I got the funding and I had to be put on the NHS waiting list, which was 2 years. That was one thing that started to put me off, because I was like, oh my God, I can't live like this anymore. But I'm so grateful I've been offered this funding. So what do you want? It's going to cost like a lot of money, or you've got the funding. So I was over the moon. Anyway, I was waiting for so long. Then I was called in to have a pre-op with a surgeon. So I'd already been given the funding. I was already like signed, sealed, just not delivered. Signed, sealed, I got everything. So I met with a consultant in the NHS. I have got her name. I'm not gonna expose her, but she was horrible. And I hate to say it, but I left crying my eyes out. My parents were with me. It was a really awful experience. She was basically like putting me off the surgery. I'm not going to go into details. Yeah, she just wasn't very nice. She was probably had a really tough day. I don't know. I'm over it, but at the time it was horrible. After that consultation with her, my operation could still be 2 years from then, so it was quite strange, but obviously I was on the waiting list and it was all approved. She just didn't make me feel comfortable at the end of the day, so we did decide to try the private route. I was really grateful. A family friend of mine had the surgery, and she recommended a surgeon to me because he worked in the private hospital near where I live in Bournemouth. His name was Mr. Whitworth, and shout out to him because he is honestly like a god. But anyway, we'll get into that. So I went to a Nuffield, and I think it was £100 for a consultation, which is like 20 minutes long. It was crazy, like you're paying £100 just to see someone for 20 minutes, but you're on the big dollar if you're a surgeon. Anyway, so I met with him. To him, I had a really bad experience with the surgeon at the NHS, and he basically just explained to me that unfortunately the NHS just don't see it as a priority surgery, which I completely get. You know, first met with him, he was just so amazing. He made me feel so comfortable. He answered all of my questions that I had. So yeah, I decided I was going to go with him, had the consultation, and the turnaround I think again was another 6 months. So I had the surgery in 2018, quite quick. Yeah, the one thing that he does they do express to you is because the surgery is anchor surgery, which when I say anchor surgery, it's around the nipple down and then the incisions like that. But because the surgery is anchor surgery, and depending on how much tissue they have to remove, basically they say you won't be able to breastfeed. That was a decision I had to make because obviously I want to have children in the future, but I didn't really care because I was just like, I need this now for my health. And, you know, I just have to deal with that later on kind of thing. But I do understand how a lot of women want to wait till after they've had children because of that being something. But for me, it didn't bother me as much because I just wanted it so bad. So anyway, my experience pre-surgery, I've written a whole long list here. One of the questions he asked me was, what size do you want to go to? That was like, and don't get me wrong, I was like, I want to be an A. I want to be an A. And I basically just said to him as small as possible because he did explain to me, you know, because I was so big, he wanted me to still be proportionate, it not be too much of a shock to me because, you know, you're physically changing a lot of your appearance because this is like a big part of you, pardon the pun there, but basically a realistic amount is what he would have suggested to me. But I was like, I want as much gone as possible. So I said a D, but he said, okay, he said he couldn't do like size, it's all done on weight. So if you're like, he was like, would you want a D to C or D to E? I kind of wish at the time I did say D to C, but I did say D to E at the point because I don't know, I was so big that I wanted no boobs. I was like, oh, everything looks so much better, your clothes look so much better if you don't have big boobs, like all of the above. But part of me was like, you know, I'm a booby gal, don't have much of a bum, like, you know, I am a booby gal, so I do still want boobs, but not, you know, nothing. So I kind of said D to E, which, you know, it is what it is. Something that I am so grateful for at the point where I actually found out after I started to go through this process of going to the Nuffield and it was booked, I was starting to do my research on like finding out people who had it and asking their experience. So I was incredibly lucky because a girl I actually went to school with at the time had the surgery. So I was like asking her so many questions and she was so helpful. And something I'm forever grateful to her for was she sent me images of her breasts straight after the surgery, because she explained to me how when they first took off the bandages after the surgery, it was such a shock to her, the like incisions and seeing the scars and like seeing it at its worst basically. So I'm forever grateful to her for sending that to me because it did prepare me for what was to come. I'd never had surgery before in my life and I was so scared about going under anaesthetic, and I just worked it up in my head. I was just like so scared. But that's when I actually started to get into yoga, because I was like, I need to calm down. I was so anxious, like it's something I'd always wanted, but when it was actually going to happen, I just freaked myself out. Anyway, came around to my pre-op. So the pre-op, they weigh you, measure you of things, and they basically write down things. It's with a nurse. Really simple process. And then I think the surgery for me was a week after that. So it was a week before, or maybe 2 weeks before, I'm not sure. But anyway, had that, and then it came to surgery day. I was actually petrified and I was so anxious, and it was the day I had the surgery was the day before the World Cup 4 years ago. So we went out for dinner, always celebrated the World Cup, and it was actually really nice because I was watching the World Cup. I was like distracted. I wasn't thinking about what was going to happen the next day. So in the morning, I was really lucky because my surgery was in the morning, so it was quite quick. But I went in to the Nuffield in Bournemouth and I met with Mr. Whitworth. That was the third time I'd seen him. He basically had to draw all over my boobs. So I was just sat there and he was just like drawing all over me to basically like see which bits you're going to cut out and all of this stuff. There are quite in-depth videos of how the surgery is performed. I'm not really going to go into details, but if you kind of have done your research already, the anchor surgery is basically around the nipple, down, they open it up, they take that tissue away and sew you back up. So it's the bit underneath that they take away. I'm gonna come to scarring in a minute, but yeah, so he basically was drawing on me where they're gonna cut me open. It was just really weird. Then I was told my surgery was ready. I went to the surgery, walked to the surgery, and like the nurses were really lovely. They're talking to you, and this is the bit where they put you on anaesthetic. So I was kind of like, they're talking to me, like being really calm, like, hi, you know, you have surgery today. Like really, really lovely people. But in my head, I was like, you're just being nice to me because you're going to put me under anaesthetic. I just freaked myself out. But the anaesthetist was actually Italian, and he was so kind. So my family is Italian. Obviously, my name's Donatella, so he kind of knew. Obviously, I had to lay down on the bed and where they were going to take me away. And this was the bit that he was going to put me under. And all I remember was them laughing about how he's like an Italian stallion and all of this. And anyway, I just remember him putting the mask thing on me going, dormire principessa, dormire, which basically means like sleep princess, sleep. And I just, it's kind of freaky if you think about it. But anyway, he was really lovely and I felt really calm from that. Anyway, went and had the surgery. I can't tell you the story time of that because I didn't do the surgery. That was the surgery. Post-surgery, I think the actual surgery is like an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe. I think depending on how much they had to remove. I think it's maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. Post-surgery, I was in recovery. There was a really lovely student nurse that helped me, and she was 20 as well, because I had it when I was 20. We were talking about being 20 and I was so high at this point. I think it's morphine and I had like gas and air. And he got back into the room. I was on loads of drugs, so to be honest, I didn't feel any pain straight away because I was on drugs. They give you a bra. Basically it's just a bra with clips at the front so that you can open it like that, but they they wrap you up and they tape you in the bra. So yeah, you're kind of like stuck into this bra. But it's a great supportive bra. I've still got it. But as the drugs started to wear off, I think I stayed in the hospital overnight. Yeah, I think I stayed for one night, and if they needed me to stay, I would stay for two. But I think I was only there for one night. The night was actually really uncomfortable. You have to lie on your back. I've completely forgotten something that you have to do. As well as having the reduction, you have to have the lift as well, which is great. That's something that I completely forgot to answer. Sorry, you do have to have the lift as well with the reduction, because obviously everything has to be put up right. And I think they raise your nipple as well. Anyway, yes, you have the night was really difficult because you have to sleep on your back. And I think it was Jack's mum who got it for me, but one of those like pregnancy pillows, I would definitely recommend getting one of those because you can kind of have it around you. So yeah, it's quite difficult to sleep on your back, and they say to sleep on your back, I think, for like a month after, or as long as you possibly can. So after the surgery, I actually had drains put in, which is something I didn't realise. I didn't know much about, but they put the drains in when you're asleep and they have to pull them out when you're awake. So this is something that, if no one tells you this, like, this is me telling you this. The drains were in because they did obviously remove quite a bit from me. I think he said he removed 600 grams from each side, I want to say. He did say like 2 bags of sugar, basically. He removed a lot, and obviously the lift as well. So the drains was basically just to help any fluid and all of that. So yeah, the nurse came in and she was like, we have to remove your drains now. And oh my gosh, like, this is the bit I didn't prepare for, because I thought, oh, I'm done, I've done the surgery, you know, now it's just the recovery process. And it was so freaking painful. I had gas and air. I was like, and she had to pull the drains out, and I could feel the drain literally from like everywhere. I could feel it. It was not nice, I'm not gonna lie to you. It was horrible. But you had the gas and air, and you could have unlimited amount of gas and air. So just when they say you don't need any more gas and air, go, yes, I do need more gas and air, actually. Have as much as you want, because that wasn't nice. I actually did that with Jack, and he was looking at me like, I couldn't actually look at you do that, because she was just pulling drains out. And yeah, so anyway, I always thought to myself, I was like, if I've done that, I can do anything. I can actually give birth in the future, because that was painful. Anyway, I had that, and then after my drains were out, I was allowed to go home. So again, I can't remember too much in detail, but I know I did have to sleep on my back. I couldn't really move. I couldn't lift my arms up. Everything just felt tight. But the first thing I do remember is that it wasn't as bad as I thought, because I was so anxious going into the surgery that I wasn't going to move. It's so painful. All I remember initially thinking was, it's not as painful as what I thought. Just obviously you were quite limited in your movement, but I was pretty much bedbound for a month. Yeah, I was itching to get back to exercise, but I started to like continue my yoga a little bit, but I was restricted in movement properly for about a month, maybe 2 months. You go back in for your post-surgery, and I think you had these once a week or once every 2 weeks. So they fix your bandages, they take off your bandages to put new ones on, and then you go back again in 2 weeks, and then in a month you see the surgeon again. Reveal, I'm going to call it, but first change of bandages. And this was the first time I was going to see what my boobs looked like. And I was so scared, but I was again really grateful because a girl had sent me the photos, so I kind of knew it was going to look yellow, it was going to look horrible. So if I'm talking about scars, I was very aware of where the scars would be. I wasn't really worried about the scars and like the healing process of the scars, because I felt really positive that it was going to heal. They took it off, and I was like, oh my god. And at this point, one actually looked bigger than the other, and I was like, oh my gosh. I have got photos of my entire process. I'm not going to show them now, but I am going to recommend some videos below that I did find where a girl does actually show you her scars. Anyway, but she said everything was like good, it was all healing, you know, we just have to keep going. And I asked, when could I start using bio oil? So they say to you to use bio oil. The surgeon actually recommended to me E45. He said that's actually the best over bio oil, so I was kind of mixing between the two. but I don't think I was allowed to actually start using it until the scabs had fallen off. I know that's really gross, but obviously you cut open and there's like bleeding and scabs, so I don't think I could actually start using that until the scabs had actually fallen off and it was all clear to apply moisturisers. Really too bothered about where my scars would be because I knew everything was kind of done below the boobs. So if you're wearing a low cut top, not that I really did anyway, but you would never be able to tell because everything's done below. So if I just cut this, the scars are here, here and here. Obviously that is the biggest incision. I wasn't really bothered about that one or the one around your nipple, but the one I was a bit anxious about was this one. Because obviously that's not, you know, not everyone has a line down their boobs there. To be completely transparent, that is the one that healed the quickest. So now, obviously 4 years later, you can't even tell that that's there. It's healed so quickly. Obviously that one at the bottom is the biggest one. One thing that they did, that I did notice is they're kind of like a line, mine. They do kind of touch, but and they did explain to me that they had to kind of do that. So I do have a kind of scar in the middle, and that they did say to me is just because I'm so small, there wasn't much back to kind of work with because I was so large. So the scars do actually meet and touch in the middle. Rather than having like one boob. I do have 2 boobs, but like the line, it kind of like comes into my cleavage, if that makes sense. But again, now I can't really tell. Yeah, I did use Bio-Oil and E45 when I was allowed to, and I think I did it every morning and evening for definitely a year and a half, maybe 2 years. I really did stick to that. So I think that is some credit to why they've healed so well. To be honest, that's all. I can answer any questions if there's anything that I've missed, but that is just purely just a story time of my experience. I hope that answered any questions or worries if anyone had any. I do really hope this has helped you in any way. If you are going ahead with the surgery, I can't recommend it enough. I honestly feel like my life, I'll actually cry talking about this, but I feel like my life started after this surgery. I could do what I wanted. I feel from now, like my friends that know me know now, since I had that surgery, I'm a completely different person. I feel so much more confident physically and mentally. Like, I can't even tell you. The surgeon actually said to me, he was like, breast reduction surgery is my favourite surgery to perform because of how it makes people feel. And it's true, it really is true. Yeah, I do feel after 4 years now down the line, they have dropped. They have definitely, you know, they're not as perky as they were when I first had them done, or the first 2 years. I think obviously now they have definitely found their shape, but I'm really happy with mine. Thank you so much for watching. If you've watched till the end of this video, I really hope that it's helped you in some way, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.